Apple have just updated their MacBook Pro line, and today we are going to talk about whether they did a good job. Now, the first so-called upgrade is the thinner design, but we all expected that. Did you seriously think they were going to make it thicker? Also, the headphone jack, thankfully, is still intact, which is good. Despite its scandalous omission in the iPhone, Apple still finds it relevant, hence they kept it in their Pro laptops. So everything they said about excluding it in the iPhone 7 was just nonsense. And we also have 4 Thunderbolt ports. No SD card slot, no USB ports, and all that good useful stuff. Honestly, I don't understand Apple's strategy here. They say the USB ports are not necessary, but at the same time, they are pitching a laptop that they keep saying looks amazing and is super portable. It's not going to look amazing and be super portable when you have adapters constantly sticking out of it, isn't it? So I would rather have a USB port. Anyway, you can decide for yourself if this is going to be a problem for you, because it really is a big problem for me. The processors start at an unjustifiably low 2 GHz and go up to 2.7 GHz, and unfortunately the 13-inch variants still do not have a dedicated GPU, which is absolutely disgraceful, seeing as we are in 2016 and this is still being marketed as a Pro machine. It's like Apple are punishing you for wanting a portable version of a Pro laptop. So moving on to something positive, the already excellent Retina display has been given a fresh coat of paint. The resolution has remained the same, but the contrast and colours have been improved, and as a result the screen now looks better. I'm not really fussed about this upgrade though, because the current Retina display on my MacBook Pro has already been serving me incredibly well, particularly for my video and photo editing. Also, the awesome MagSafe connector has been removed. So has the really nice glowing Apple logo at the back. Apple really are being brave at removing this stuff, aren't they? Anyway, next up we have a larger trackpad which is now double the size compared to the original. I find it strange that after many years Apple only now deemed it appropriate to increase the trackpad size. I always thought that there was plenty of space to make it bigger for years, so I find it odd that now they decided to do it. The keyboard has been revamped, and honestly I have nothing but an infinite amount of animosity towards this change. I knew it was only a matter of time. Apple basically took the absolutely rubbish butterfly mechanics from their overpriced and underspec'd MacBook's keyboard and integrated it into the new MacBook Pros. The reason why I absolutely despise this keyboard is because there is next to no travel when you press the keys. They feel incredibly flat, and when you're touch typing it's really hard to get a feel for where the keys are because they are almost indistinguishable. In a very similar way to the keyboard on the iPad, typing on it is a real test of my patience, and I cannot see myself searching up a video on YouTube with it, let alone writing Word documents or scripts. Now I am aware that this is meant to be version 2, which has a bit more travel than the one that's on the current MacBooks, but still, the travel will be less than that of the current Retina MacBook Pros, which already have the bare minimum amount of travel. Reducing it even more will just make for a crap keyboard. If you get along with it, then good for you, but if like me you just can't get along with this style of keyboard, then this alone will be a deal breaker for you. And finally, the main selling point of these new MacBook Pros is the TouchBar, which has replaced the function keys on top of the keyboard. So yes, that means the much loved and taken for granted escape button, which has been on computers since the beginning of time, has now been removed. It will still be there, but in the form of an infinitely less tactile capacitive button. So yeah, what's the deal with this thing? Well, do you remember in the older versions of iOS when you double tapped the home button and swiped to the left, you would have some volume and iPod controls? Well, think of that times 10. This bar is basically a bunch of quick controls for you to interact with various applications on your Mac, such as Safari, Photoshop, Final Cut Pro 10, etc. Now I have a lot of opinions to express about this thing, but that could last a whole video, so I will give you the short and sweet version. The touch bar is nice, but it isn't practical. First off, many of the standard controls on the bar are already available on all the current MacBooks via the function keys, such as the volume for example, and using it to scrub through the timeline of your editing software is a cool idea, but in what way is that going to make you more productive? It isn't. Myself and many other people have been using our favourite softwares for so long that we already know how to quickly and efficiently navigate around them in the shortest amount of time. So using the touch bar will not make our work any better. Also, quite unsurprisingly, Apple were being very sly with the way they marketed this thing. They made a big deal of saying that you don't need to use your mouse and go from one menu to the other in order to perform certain tasks. Nah, that takes too long. Just press one button on the touch bar, it's a lot easier.
And adding content to an already open document can be a lot of mousing, but not with the touch bar. I'll just tap that, select the sunset, put that right there.
Did you see what she did there? She basically imported an image, and she did so by pressing a button on the touch bar. But do you know what she could have just as easily done? Used a hotkey on the keyboard. You know, Command and I. When you get down to it, that's basically all this touch bar is. It's a hotkey bar. Lots of the things it does you can easily do with a hotkey, which we have all been doing for years. Now yes, there are some stuff that is more elegant to control with a touch bar, such as scrubbing through video just by sliding it, the fingerprint scanner, auto type, actually that was really stupid, scrubbing through photos and much more. But as I said, it's nice, but not practical. This isn't going to make you more productive or make your work more impressive. It's a nice idea, but this is definitely not a selling point for a laptop. A professional who intends to get MacBook Pro will try these features, but in the end, once the novelty has worn off, he or she will just resort to doing things the old-fashioned way with a trackpad and keyboard. Because let's face it, Apple's trackpad is far more accurate than using a small touchscreen. Also, this tiddly little strip is nothing when compared to a full-blown touchscreen, but Apple are convinced it's the way of the future. So the laptops will be available in November and will come in two colors, silver and a rather depressing looking space grey. I can only assume that they are going to make a gold and rose gold color next year. Also, the base 13-inch version does not have the touch bar, which is a very sly move on Apple's part. They say it's replacing their 13-inch MacBook Air, but that's a lie, because it costs £400 more than the MacBook Air. So it's really their way of taunting you and making you spend a few hundred extra quid to get the next version up with the touch bar. And shall we talk about price? Because this is just unbelievable. So the prices start at £1,749 or $1,799. Clearly those in the US are getting a much better deal than us in the UK, but when you do some price comparisons, even the US are getting screwed here. Now listen to me very carefully, and there is no disputing this. These laptops are not pro machines, because they lack two crucial and very important things: the processor speeds and the storage. Just look at what £2,349 will get you with this new MacBook Pro. A 2.6 GHz quad-core i7 processor and 256 GB of storage. I have a mid-2015 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro that has a 2.5 GHz quad-core i7 processor, as well as 512 GB of storage, and it cost me £2,000. Now I didn't pay that much for it, but do you see my point here? You are essentially getting the same computer that I did with the same processor, the same amount of RAM, a similar GPU, and half the storage, but Apple are charging you £349 more to buy it. That is a downright scam! And if you want to get 512 GB of storage, which for a pro laptop is still incredibly low, the price will go up to £2,699. I mean, this is insane. Going back a few years ago, the price for the original 15-inch MacBook Pro with 500 GB of storage used to be £1,500, and with the Retina MacBook Pros, it was £2,000. But now to get the base version with a measly 512 GB of storage, you will be charged £2,699. This is just madness. And I will tell you what guys, I have been a Windows user for 16 years and have been on Mac for nearly 4 years now. I love my Mac and do not want to go back to Windows, but if I was in the position where I had to buy a new laptop, I sure as hell would ditch the Mac platform, give it the finger, and buy a Windows laptop. Purely because of the incredibly lackluster specs and the fact that if you were to spend even less than this on a Windows laptop, you will basically be able to take your pick of anything you want. There will be so much options and possibilities at your fingertips, and you will be getting so much value. Now some of you will be like, oh Eric, you are just complaining about this because you can't afford it. Well, let me tell you something, you stupid, naive, pathetic moron. When I spend my money on anything, I look for value. And I would argue that with Apple's previous MacBook Pros, despite the high price point, there was still value to be found. And there is absolutely nothing of value in this abortion of a machine. Apple's prices from last year were far more appealing than this, and even they were the most I was willing to accept. The new MacBook Pros are nothing more than a con. So that's basically about it for the new, not-so-pro MacBook Pros. Here's my question to you guys and girls. Are you going to be getting the new MacBook Pros? Does it interest you? Or do you think it's more style over substance? As for me, even if the price wasn't this scandalously high, I would still not go with this machine. I feel that the current Retina MacBook Pros have got all the stuff that I need, whereas the new ones are going to cause trouble and inconveniences for me. But that's just my opinion. Be sure to tell me about yours in the comment section below that like button. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see all of you next time. Take care.
It has a whole new design. It is metal on all sides.
It has always been metal on all sides since 2009, you moron. Why are you pitching it like you've never made a metal MacBook before?